everybody, welcome to Trackalicious. Happy Wednesday. You made it to the Multiclass Championship, round number 5 at Imola. I'm Kuchaterekov, taking you for a ride here around the Italian countryside in the Emilia-Romagna region, kind of in the middle of Italy. I'd say Bologna would be the nearest big town. Cheers, Neil, for the hydrate right off the bat. Get some tea in our system. Bigelow green tea this time, accompanied with some lemon-flavored sparkling water. Qualifying is getting started here now with the GT4s rolling out first, so let's head to the track to get rolling with round number 5. Ilpo Ruotsalainen on his outlap going through Aqua Minerale, rising up the hill before finishing out the rest of the final sector. Race winner from last week looking to keep the momentum rolling into round number 5 here in the lead of the championship as well. Not a big gap though between him and the man sitting in second place, Justin Beachley in the Beach GT AMG, just a few cars back from the Camaro. 9 points separate our two championship leaders. Behind them, you've got Andres Mostachero and Diego Mostachero in third and fourth place. Justin Beachley with a big evasive maneuver there, getting out of the way of the number 10 Porsche. Alex Freeman is back. The number 14 Aston Martin starting his first flying lap of the session. The first 10 minutes for our lovely GT4s. And after the 10-minute mark, the GT3s will begin their qualifying session. Heading now through the Villeneuve chicane. Hello, hello, hello. Hope everyone's doing well tonight. Wherever you may be joining us from around the world, happy to have you here on your Wednesday. Imola always provides some great multi-class action, and we are hoping it will do the same here. The GT4's just getting started. Alex Freeman running a little bit wide at the corner exit of Piratella, but it looks like he just was able to hang it within track limits. So we will see just where the AF Sport Aston Martin will finish, should he keep the rest of the lap going cleanly, braking heavily at the Variante Alta chicane, riding the curbs very nicely. We're charging back down the hill. A kink to the left and then one to the right shoots the driver downhill into a hard braking zone for the two Ravazzas to close out the lap. Don't want to run too wide. There's a lot of gravel protecting the corner exit to really punish the driver so they can't get the speed out down this main straightaway, but Alex Freeman was able to avoid that as he goes to the line. Ilpo sets his time first, and Alex is about 1 second back with a 1:51.357. Brian DeSantiago slots in just a few thousandths up ahead of Alex Freeman. Fernando Carabete from the Monday Rookies looking to test his skills here in the multi-class. The 704 McLaren coming to the line. 5 drivers on the board and more to come. The McLaren coming up to the line, and it is 6th place behind Diego Mostachero in 5th and Tyler Asherle in 7th place. Ezzy Thomas in the lone KTM going through the final few corners. We'll ride with the roll cage with the windshield around it as he comes to the start-finish line to complete his first flying lap and get on the board up to 9th place. So after those first out laps, after those first flying laps, I should say, Ilpo leads the way with a 150.285. But with these GT4s, they do not have tire blankets to warm them up, so it might take a few laps for some of the other drivers to get some representative lap times here, as Ilpo is looking to increase his gap at the top here. Can he get into the 49s maybe here? He improves by about a tenth, gets a 50.147 on the board. And with 4:18 left in his qualifying session, he will go back to the pit lane, get some new rubber on the car, and go out once more. Alex Freeman slots ahead now of Brian DeSantiago. Where will Justin Beachley go? He also goes ahead of DeSantiago, but behind Alex Freeman on the second row. Tyler Asherle in the 665 Camaro goes into the top 5. Still waiting on times from Andres Mostachero and Joe Chericola in the GT4s, as well as Pak Hae Kwan. No valid laps on the board yet. 10 have established their grid order so far. As we look to the rest of the grid for them to get their lap time set, here is that one of those cars without a lap time. It's Andres Mostachero going through the Tosa hairpin, rising up the hill. Up to a tricky, quick Piratella left-hander. Don't want to run too wide and risk the track limits, and the BMW is able to do just that. The driver who is currently sitting in third in the championship, about 20 points back, or exactly 20 points back from Justin Beachley in second, and it's a 10-point gap over Diego Mostachero in fourth place. He's finished on the podium last week as well, so he knows how to put in a good result, and just looking to keep it valid here with time running out in the qualifying session. Just 2.5 minutes left for the GT4s before they are forced to return back to the pits. Just a touch wide, maybe not even, hard to tell from that camera angle, as the 105 now going up to the line. Where will this lap put Andres? He goes into the top 5 ahead of the sister BMW of Brian DeSantiago, who recently just escaped from the pits and looking to get rolling on a new set of tires. And Hezzy Thomas looking to get an improvement here. Got Pak Hae Kwan behind, also looking to get a lap on the board in the number 10 Porsche. Hezzy Thomas improves his time by about a second there, and Pak Hae Kwan not getting a valid lap on the board. So this will be the lap that matters now with just 1 minute left. This is the final attempt for these two drivers who just crossed the start-finish line. Now Diego Mostachero looking to improve and spoil the all BMW third row on the grid. Needs about 4/10 to get ahead of Brian DeSantiago for 6th, and about 6/10 to get ahead of Andres Mostachero. So Justin Beachley back to the pits. Third will be the highest that the number 18 AMG can finish. Diego pulls off to the side. So 7th will be the best that Diego will be able to finish. Ilpo Ruotsalainen with Andres in front of him, looking to improve their times respectively. Andres goes up to third. Ilpo nearly gets into the 149s, a 150.082 from the Camaro, and that is the checkered flag now for the GT4s. The 204 and the 105 were across the line before that marker, but anybody else who crossed just now will be unable to go around once more. So Brian DeSantiago in 6th, looking to get the same improvement that the sister BMW got and maybe get on to the 2nd row here. And no improvement from the BMW. He will go back into the pits and practice that pit lane entry, as it is absolutely crucial to get down. And yeah, Fernando is doing these. Oh no, sorry to hear, Kalen, that you can't run in this, as Carabete runs deep at Aqua Minerale, invalidating the lap. So all the hope remains on Andres Mostachero and Ilpo Ruotsalainen. These two drivers together on track. Last race had a great battle around Zolder. Just came down to a pit stop. And will we see the same unfold in the race tonight? Andres just needs a few hundredths of a second to get onto that front row ahead of Alex Freeman. Ilpo Ruotsalainen dives into the pits. Where will the 105 BMW go? Trying to cut as much time as possible, staying to the right-hand side, and he gains a 10th and gets onto the front row. So that's the GT4 qualifying session done. Now on to the GT3s. They just completed their outlaps. So this will be their first flying lap attempt. Sarah Liu, race winner from last week and 2 other occasions, coming into round number 5, looking to continue that absolute dominant pace. And continuing to slide around. Now going back down the hill into Aqua Minerale. Yeah, not sure what happened to the 105 there. It's just, oh, there it goes. It has returned safely to the pits. Sarah Liu heavily over the curbs at Variante Alta, but managing to keep the car under control as she goes back down the hill for the final time of the lap. The 2 Ravazzas remain. As the 72 Aston Martin in front will set the benchmark first. That is Moleda with a 141.585. Sarah Liu 2.5 tenths back in second. Neil Kerbel 5 thousandths of a second off of the time set by the sister Lexus. Dean Stefani to the line in his 77 Green Light Racing McLaren goes up to 4th. Tony Gold to 5th. Mach Speed in 6th. Still waiting for GT3s to make their way around. Jim Reynolds looking to do just that as he goes up to 6th place in his Ferrari. Seven on the board, still looking for some times. Miguel Cicerone, one of those drivers. Going through Piratella back down to Aqua Minerale. Thank you for the follow. Hope you are doing well. And we've got a full onboard with the 313. Let's check in with Jim Reynolds. We'll check in with him once he crosses the start-finish line, and we will get a full onboard lap with that Ferrari driver. So just the final few corners left for the 666 of Miguel Cicerone. Looking to get a valid lap on the board here. Him and Professor Chronotis in the number 42, as well as Vladimir Beluga, looking to get times in the GT3 field. Cicerone across the line gets into the top 5. Can Professor Chronotis match him? He runs wide, it looks like, at the final corner, invalidating his lap. So he will have to go around once more. So Jim Reynolds here crossing the start-finish line. Currently sitting in 8th place, needs about 3/10 to get ahead of Devin Anthony in the standings. Hard on the brakes into the Tamburello chicane. A left, a right, and then another flat left-hander for these GT3s. Don't want to run too wide. Try to carry all of the speed into this first part of Villeneuve. Very late on the brakes, and then hard dropping down a few gears for the second part. And now to the tight hairpin at Tosa. Relatively flat in this first sector, and here is where that all changes. Rising up the hill to Piratella goes the 313 Ferrari. A slight kink to the right before a very late braking zone because it's such a quick corner, just down a gear, slinging the car to the left, back down the hill into Aqua Minerale. A very quick right-hander, hard on the brakes, down to second, trying to take as much curb as possible, but do not want to eat those yellow sausage curbs, protecting the inside. And it's the same story heading up the hill to Variante Alta, but you still want to take as much as possible. Jim Reynolds taking a lot of the first part, not so much of the second, getting the exit nailed before the two Ravazzas. Relatively flat before a sudden sharp drop down the hill to the right. Difficult braking zone, so easy to lock up and go deep, but Jim Reynolds takes the apex perfectly for the first part. A little bit hesitant on the throttle for the second part, but nonetheless, it's looking like a good lap. Where will Jim Reynolds go? Can he get himself into the top 5 or ahead of Devin Anthony? It's so close. Nearly gets ahead of the Porsche ahead of him. Now separated by about 1/10 of a second. Cheers for that, hydrate. Hope you guys enjoyed that lap. Pretty good example set there by Jim Reynolds. Just nice and smooth on those curbs, not taking it too aggressively, and just improving on that time. Neil Kerbel able to get ahead of Sarah Liu on to that front row alongside Moleda. And Sarah Liu looking for a response here in the 310 Lexus down the hill. And handling the Ravazzas just fine in that Lexus. Going to the line, needs about half a second of an improvement and gets a lot more than that. Gets within 2/10 of Moleda, ahead of Neil Kerbel by about 4/10. So Neil now will have to respond in the Lexonomicon, the 395, just starting a lap here. It will be his final attempt, and he invalidates it at the Tamburello chicane. Just getting a little bit too eager in that second part, too much curb. So 3rd place will be the best that Neil Kerbel will be able to finish. Professor Chronotis to the line to start his final flying lap attempt. As Jim Reynolds mock speed in the pits from 9th and 10th place respectively. Both the Lexuses, the Lexis, the number 2 or the 2nd place and 3rd place cars also in the pits. Most of the drivers in the top 5 or even in the top 10 still out on track. Order is still completely up for grabs here. Devin Anthony will be the first of those still out on a lap. Time ticking down. It will hit 0 before he crosses the line. Checkered flag will be waving for the Porsche. Needs about a second to get past Professor Chronotis, who goes back to the pits from 7th. Is this the time that the Noobs R Us can take advantage of that? Until the line goes, the Porsche improves the time, but can't quite match the pace of the number 42 Ferrari up ahead. Tony Gold sitting about 6/10 behind the 395 Lexus, coming up to the line now in the 87 Aston Martin, and can't get an improvement as he crosses. So fourth will be the best, unless Dean Stefani can do anything about that. He gets close, but not quite up to that second row. So Dean will start from fifth alongside Cicerone in sixth. Yeah, the curbs are super tricky to get around Imola, especially in that first complex at Tamburello. If you just get thrown off through that first part, it's so difficult to get the second part right, and if you can't get the power down correctly in the second part, you lose all that time in the straight all the way to the Villeneuve chicane. Alrighty. Race timer ticking down, drivers getting their setups loaded. Let's remind ourselves of the GT4 starting grid. On pole position, as we've seen it many times before, Ilpo Ruotsalainen in the 204 Creme de la Course Camaro will lead the GT4s from the line. Next alongside him will be Andres Mostachero. Can he put on a challenge for the race win? As we saw at Zolder last week, he will be in the 105 Naps BMW. Alex Freeman is back, and he's back in third place in his number 14 AF Sport Aston Martin. He sits alongside the man in second place in the championship, Justin Beachley, in the number 18 Beach GT AMG. Behind him, Fernando Carabete in the 704 KRT McLaren, showing that the rookies have some good pace around here, qualifying in fifth in the GT4s. Sharing the third row with him will be Brian DeSantiago, recent rookies graduate in the 777 NPG Racing BMW. Then you've got Diego Mostachero in seventh in the number 44 Naps team Aston Martin. Joining him on the fourth row is Tyler Asherle in the V8 Racing 665 Camaro. Starting from ninth will be the lone Alpine, Dr. Porkchop, the Chop Shop Racing 71, starts inside the top 10. And rounding out the top 10 is Joe Chericola in the Billy Williams Racing number 9 AMG. Rally Dutchy behind in the lone Ginetta. We saw a whole swarm of them on Monday. Just one tonight, the Nine Tail Racing 621 of Rally Dutchy, starting from 11th place. And we bring it on to the lone KTM. It's Hezzy Thomas in the Dog Box Racing number 59. He will start from 12th. Rounding out the GT3 field is Pak Hae Kwan in the number 10 Porsche. And on to the GT3 field. Haven't had to say his name a lot, but he got pole position. It's Michael Moleda in the number 72 Baller Squad Racing Aston Martin. He will lead the way in his first race this championship. Sharing the front row with Michael is Sarah Liu, race winner on 3 occasions this season in the Denso Storm Chasers 310 Lexus. Neil Kerbel was the only driver so far to be able to take a win in the championship that other than Sarah Liu. So can he provide the challenge to that front row this evening, starting from third in the 395 Lexonomicon. In fourth, you've got Tony Gold in the 87 Coach Dave Academy Aston Martin. He will start from the second row. Dean Stefani next in fifth in the Green Light Racing 77 McLaren. Alongside him, you've got the colorful Aston Martin of Miguel Cicerone in the Cicerone 666. Next, you've got Devin Anthony in the 664 Porsche in the Noobs R Us livery. Sharing the fourth row with him is Professor Chronotis in the number 42 Ferrari. Behind him is Jim Reynolds, who we got a beautiful onboard lap with in the BJ Racing 313 Ferrari. Rounding out the top 10, you've got Mach Speed in the Nismo 145 in the Speed livery. Last but not least, you've got Vladimir Beluga, unable to get a lap on the board in qualifying, so he will start behind the GT4 field in the number 5 Beluga Racing Team Porsche. That's the starting grid. They are on their way to the final sector to get this race going. Now is the time to get those tires and brakes and the brains ready to go racing. It's one thing to put in a clean lap during qualifying, it's another to do it for 50 minutes ahead with a pit stop that will be mandatory to serve 25 seconds of refueling time, and then it is up to the drivers if they want to take another 5 seconds and add fresh tires to that stop. The leader is going down the hill into Ravazza for the conclusion of the formation laps. Cheers for the hydrate. I'm gonna need a lot here before the race start. We'll do a lap with Ilpo sometime mid-race. We'll make sure it's during a decent time for sure. We'll get the race start from these external cams, provide a good glimpse of the action. It is a late green light here at Imola. Not that long of a run-up, but it is quite a chaotic run-up with that little kink to the right-hand side before the braking zone. Let's see how the drivers handle it with 11 GT3s, 13 GT4s in the grid this evening, getting ready for the green lights to release them for round number 5.
Green light, go, go, go.
And we are going green here, 50 minutes ticking away. Great start from Sarah Liu. Sweeps ahead of the Aston Martin for the race lead. Can Neil Kerbel do the same? He's got the inside in the Lexus, but the Aston will sweep through the next part of that's Tamburello, and they will continue on battling down to Villeneuve. It looks like it was relatively clean all the way through the field. Ilpo Ruotsalainen still hanging on to the lead. Andres Mostachero applying the pressure. Justin Beachley got ahead of Alex Freeman at the race start, so he is up to a podium position and looking to get ahead of Andres and maybe challenge Ilpo so he can fight for that first place in the championship. It was a great start from Sarah Liu, and that's side by side. Devin Anthony going around the outside of Aqua Minerale. That is a very difficult move to do, and he runs wide. Cicerone trying to take advantage. There's contact between him and Devin Anthony. The Porsche stranded in the middle of the track. The GT4 field having to take massive evasive action here as the GT3 of Devin Anthony just can't find a gap here in the traffic to get back and point it in the correct direction. So after that race start, Sarah Liu gets the lead in the Lexus. She got it before the braking zone of Tamburello. Moleda will look to challenge that though in his Aston Martin. Now in the middle of a Lexus sandwich with Neil Kerbel not too far behind him. As the Aston Martin going very deep into Tamburello, nearly losing control of the car, but pointing it in the correct direction still, losing the position to Neil Kerbel. A slight bump from Tony Gold onto the back of Moleda, who is going to challenge him into Villeneuve, but can't quite get alongside the first part. Tony Gold runs wide. This might give Moleda an opportunity to challenge into the Tosa hairpin. Around the outside's a very difficult move to get right. And the two Astons will now battle for that final step of the podium after Moleda trying to go a little bit too hot into Tamburello and now into Piratella, nearly doing the same. Fernando being given some energy here from fellow rookie Akane Kalen, challenging Alex Freeman for 4th place. Still has a very good top 5 position. Andres on the defensive line versus Justin Beachley for 2nd and 3rd place out in front, as Beachley will look to try and close in and hopefully work his way through. But at the moment, Andres looks pretty comfortable where he is in that 105 BMW. Carabete having a look down the inside. Alex Freeman giving him the space. They're going to keep going side by side. Fortunately for Carabete, the inside remains his as the 2 Ravazzas bend to the left and down the main straight they go. Pardon me there. Switched it on accident. That battle's up ahead of this one. Carabete now up to 4th. He will look up to now to Beachley and Mostachero to potentially find himself in a podium position here. Justin Beachley goes down the inside. And like on the previous lap, we saw the Aston Martin just unable to keep full control through Tamburello, losing a bit of time to Mostachero. Carabete trying to fight through. Now we have a 4-car battle on our hands for 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th in the GT4s. Up ahead in the GT3s, the 2 Aston Martins trying to settle the final step of the podium. Tony Gold got it on the previous lap after Moleda had a little bit of a moment at the Tamburello chicane, but he is looking to fight back strong here, not giving Tony Gold any breathing room at all. And a little heavy over the curbs at the 2nd Ravazza won't give the best exit to Moleda, but he will try to use the slipstream to his advantage to get by Tony Gold. Brian DeSantiago battling up ahead with Diego Mostachero, as there are the 2 GT3s up ahead after having a bit of contact in Aqua Minerale. Devin Anthony and Cicerone cross the line to start their 4th racing lap. Brian DeSantiago moving down the GT4 field just a touch. I think just losing a position, but he's going to get it right back. He thought about it down the inside of Tamburello, but just thinking the better of it, and will look to line up a move, exiting this chicane up ahead to Villeneuve. It looks like the 777 got a pretty good exit here, but the 44 remains out in front. And there has been a change. For 3rd place, Carabete gets ahead of Justin Beachley for that final step of the podium in the GT4s. There's Cicerone working his way through the GT3 traffic after getting involved in that incident at Aqua Minerale. The corner we are approaching now, going back down the hill, having a look down the inside of Carabete, but just not having the space there. And here is one of the better overlap opportunities. A little bit of a straight exiting Aqua Minerale before the chicane at the top of the hill. Justin Beachley looking to go through with the Porsche. Alex Freeman drifting on corner exit, trying to catch up to this battle. And Carabete will remain ahead of Beachley for that final step of the podium. We'll do a quick onboard with Ilpo as he goes down the start-finish straight here. There is Cicerone approaching him on the overlap for the GT3 versus the GT4. This is technically still for position, with the GT3s getting a little bit out of the mix here as he goes through Ilpo into Villeneuve. And here we can really see the speed of the GT3s, just escapes away and rides off into the sunset. Of course, now he's got Devin Anthony also working his way through. There is the Porsche going down the inside of the Tosa hairpin. And so Ilpo working his way down through Piratella now. Taking a good amount of curb there on corner exit, just trying to maximize the time and pull out a good gap, as he has done already. About 2.5 seconds separates him from Andres Mostachero in second place in the GT4 field. And that Camaro just seems so comfortable riding the curbs. Ilpo just able to throw the car in through Variante Alta, just knowing it'll get through safely on the other side. And it is much the same story, exiting the two Ravazzas, going down to the start-finish line. And that is your onboard lap with Ilpo. And Justin Beachley in hot pursuit of the McLaren in front, but just unable to get that racing line dialed behind another driver, and just eating a lot of curbs through Tamburello. Just losing the car quite a little bit there, losing about 3/10 in that first sector alone here. But he is continuing to try and apply the pressure as best as he can to Carabete. Doesn't want to lose ground to Ilpo in the overall championship standings. We've got our first driver in the pits. It's Michael Moleda, the pole sitter of the GT3 field. Pits from 4th place in the number 72 Aston Martin. Justin Beachley very close now to the back of the McLaren. It does seem like through this chicane, the AMG a lot more confident on the brakes and taking the curbs. We've seen it on the last lap. The AMG nearly had a look as the Porsche of Devin Anthony was working his way through on the overlap. Justin Beachley almost took advantage and snuck on through as well. Now he will look to carry all of the speed he can into the braking zone at Tamburello. But that McLaren just runs away in the straights, not giving Beachley any opportunity to fight side by side into the braking zone. In the GT3s, Professor Kurnotis looking to fight with Dean Stefani for now 4th place after the pit stop by Moleda. Serliu continuing to have great pace at the front, sets a new fastest lap. The gap between her and Neil Kerbel at the front of the GT3s is right around 2 seconds. And then it is about 7.3 seconds to Tony Gold, who occupies that final step of the podium. And now this is the battle for 4th and 5th. We'll have to wait and see exactly where Moleda will slot in after the pit stop as well. Notice a little heavy over the curbing through the second part of Villeneuve, but able to stick close behind to the McLaren. Devin Anthony in the pits in the lone or not the lone GT3 Porsche. There's Vladimir Beluga as well. But the 664 nonetheless dives into the pits. Perhaps a little bit of damage onto that car, not allowing him to go at the race pace he would quite like to. After about 14 minutes, the Porsche decides it is time to come on in. Ilpo has built a pretty good gap over Andres Mostachero. It's right around 5.5 seconds. And then Carabete and Justin Beachley just gaining just that little bit of time. Oh my goodness me, what happened there? Alrighty, everything's back in order. Alright, back to this battle. Not quite sure what happened there. But nonetheless here, Carabete trying to get on the tail of Mostachero. These two were gaining on the driver sitting in second place in that 105 BMW. Carabete runs deep through Aqua Minerale, now allowing Justin Beachley to fight side by side into the braking zone at Variante Alta. We've seen him be super confident in here, and he gets the move done into the first part of the chicane. Now, will this have slowed down Carabete enough for Alex Freeman to try and fight that position? But it doesn't look like he is going to fight it, with Moleda working his way through in the GT3. As he goes to the inside. Oh my goodness, hair-raising stuff there. Beluga goes to the pits in the number 5 Porsche. And now down this main straight, surely this will be the best time for Moleda to get by the GT4s and try to put in some clean laps in some fresh air and get that undercut done on Tony Gold. So after that great move into Variante Alta, Justin Beachley back in a podium position in his number 18 AMG. And it just seems like the pace of the AMG is dominant in one sector versus the McLaren in others, and you can really see that here. And on the previous laps too, Justin Beachley just had great speed going through Aqua Minerale and into Variante Alta, that move was just coming at any moment if there was any slip up from Carabete. And fortunately for Beachley, he got that on the previous lap, very deep on the brakes. Again is Carabete nearly going over the sausage curves. Beluga unfortunately getting a stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. Granotis is getting closer and closer to Stefani. Will he be able to fight his way through here? It is Ferrari versus McLaren into Variante Alta. Stefani stays in front of Professor Granotis. And these two also want to put in some clean laps, knowing that Moleda already pit and might get stuck in a little bit of traffic after serving that early pit stop. Down the start finish straight, the McLaren has a big advantage over the Ferrari. Pulls out a few tenths of a second at least after the corner exit of the second Ravazza and the braking zone of Tamburello. And once again, the Professor taking the curbs at Villeneuve a little bit heavily. Dean Stefani runs wide and dips a wheel into the gravel, so that is not helping him in his escape of the Professor behind. This battling duo approaching Tyler Asherle in the 665 Camaro. That is perfectly judged from the McLaren, the Ferrari, and the Camaro, all of them giving each other plenty of space there. Cicerone in the pits in the 666 Aston Martin, as is the race leader of the GT4s, Ilpo Ruotsalainen. He has come in for his traditional early-ish pit stop, as this is a big time for that GT3 overlap. Mostachero building a pretty decent gap over Brian DeSantiago. After these two were battling, the gap has grown to about a second and a half. And into Toza, Carabete's trying to fight back for that podium position. They're going to go side by side up the hill to Piratella. McLaren has the advantage in top speed, and he gets it before the braking zone. So Carabete back into a podium position. Justin Beachley is going to fight it back, as we have seen it on the previous laps. This is the sector where the AMG seems to be the strongest. Corner exit of Aqua Minerale looked very good from the AMG. Carabete takes the defensive position on the inside to the braking zone at Variante Alta, and the AMG just not close enough on this occasion to the McLaren to fight back. Great move into Toza. Oh, Beachley running a little bit deep. Carabete dips just a tiny bit of a wheel into the gravel, but certainly not as much as the AMG behind, allowing him to escape just that little bit further, as Andres Mostachero in the 105 BMW goes into the pits, as does Alex Freeman in the number 14 Aston Martin. Carabete runs deep into Tamburello. Justin Beachley's gonna really try and fight this back. Gets held up on corner exit though. Tony Gold in the GT3 Aston trying to work his way through, and he will do just that. There is Vladimir Beluga as well in the GT3 Porsche trying to work his way through. And Beluga goes into the gravel there at Toza, running a little bit deep, while these two continue to battle it out. This is now for the GT4 lead, but these two will still need to make that mandatory pit stop, and we'll see exactly where they come out relative to Andres Mostachero and Alex Freeman, who they were battling with in that top five. And it's once again through Aqua Minerale that the Justin Beachley just really seems to be getting the better of that McLaren in front, and it's getting very dicey with the battle between Dean Stefani and Professor Chronotis approaching these cars as well. So there is Dean working his way, McLaren versus McLaren. Professor Chronotis trying to get by now. Also, he will split the two GT4s. Dean Stefani goes a little bit wide, exiting the first Ravazza. Now Chronotis gets through the GT4 McLaren and allows Justin Beachley to continue in with that fight. Professor Chronotis just losing a little bit of time to Dean Stefani in that GT4 overlap situation. Diego Mostachero in the pits. Paque Kwan in the pits as well. is what the back of the McLaren is seeing. Taking the curb so heavily, but it's still so planted on corner exit that Fernando is able to get away with taking a lot of it through Villeneuve. The AMG just getting a little bit more unsettled, but staying right in touching distance of the 704. And right when you think you've got a bit of a gap to traffic, there's the GT3 Porsche of Devin Anthony. And here it is again through Aqua Minerale. The AMG has a good run. And Devin Anthony there just trying to get through as well in that GT3. Does it perfectly before the braking zone. And allows the two GT4s to carry on in their battle. After the pit stop, Ilpo has a good 8-second advantage over Andres Mostachero. What happened there? My goodness, I looked away from the screen for just a second. Let's take a look at the replay. We're going into the Ravazzas here, down the hill, into the braking zone. All looks nice and dandy here. Carabete just a little bit wide. And into the second park. Oh, there was a little contact at the apex of the corner between Beachley and Carabete. So the McLaren goes spinning the wrong way into the wall. Justin Beachley carrying on. But a little bit of front end damage surely to the 18. As Carabete goes into the pits after that little kerfuffle with Justin Beachley. Professor Chronotis goes into the pits after he was battling with Stefani for 4th place. And so will that have cost Carabete time to Alex Freeman and Andres Mostachero, who look like both of them have already made their way through the start-finish straight, and just now the 704 gets rolling out of the pit lane. So Andres back into effectively 2nd place. Alex Freeman moves up to 3rd, depending on where Justin Beachley will come out after his pit stop. Race leader Sarah Liu in the 310 Lexus in the pits, joined by Tony Gold from 3rd in the 87 Aston Martin. So has Moleda put in the clean, consistent laps after pitting from 4th place to come out ahead of Tony Gold. Tony Gold getting dropped, rolling at pit lane speed though, as Moleda goes through at racing speed, crosses the start-finish line now, and there he gets ahead of the black and red Aston of Tony Gold. So this is effectively 3rd for the number 72 Aston Martin. There we can see Gold just coming out of the pits, and he comes out behind Professor Chronotis as well. Oh man, sorry to hear, Mr. Porkchop. Yeah, I had a bit of a glitch earlier on. I wonder if there's just something going on today with the servers. as it seems like there's always a new problem every week with ACC. Oh no, the 665, Tyler Asherle getting a stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. You're correct, it is Dr. Porkchop. That's Mr. Dr. Professor Porkchop to you. I thought Doctor was just his first name. I didn't think it was a title. But congrats to the Porkchop for getting and making his way through college. Unfortunate to hear about those issues, though. Hopefully they will be fixed and ready to go for next week's races. Beachley in the pits. He is one of the last GT4s to do so. Hezzy Thomas remaining out there. Still about 20 minutes left in the race. Tony Gold battling now with Professor Chronotis, as Dean Stefani, after his pit stop, remains ahead, or gets ahead of, I should say, of Moleda. So this might turn into effectively third for Dean Stefani. Ciacisaron, unfortunate to see that was how the race unfolded. But it's always good to see that colorful Aston Martin on the grid. So Dean Stefani electing to not take tires during his pit stop. He will be at a pretty big disadvantage come the end of the race compared to Moleda or Chronotis behind on that fresh rubber. Tony Gold also having a slightly longer pit stop than his rivals out in front, so perhaps just costing him that little bit of track position as well compared to Stefani and Moleda, who runs wide exiting the second Ravazza. So after the GT4 pit stops are all done and dusted, Ilpo Rutsalainen in the lead, Andres Mostachero in second. Alex Freeman got promoted up to third after the incident between Beachley and Carabete. Then you've got Mostachero in fourth. Beachley will remain in the top five here. Then you've got Brian DeSantiago in sixth as the 664 Porsche trying to sneak through there on the overlap into the first Ravazza. Then you've got Carabete behind Brian DeSantiago in seventh. Hezzy Thomas still needing to come into the pits to get that mandatory pit stop cleared. Then you've got Beluga behind him in the GT3, then Rally Dutchy in the 621 Ginetta, Kwan in the number 10 Porsche, and Tyler Asherle, unfortunately, at the back of the grid after having to serve a stop go 30 for speeding in the pit lane. The GT3 field gonna get pretty tight here, and it's already very tight. Professor Chronotis trying to go through Tony Gold. Or I guess that's actually Tony Gold getting through Professor Chronotis. And Chronotis trying to fight back for that position with Rally Dutchy in the 621 Ginetta getting in the mix there at Variante Alta. Tony Gold up a place. He will now try to chase down Moleda up in front in the number 72. About 2.5 seconds separating the two Aston Martins. So Neil Kerbel, Jim Reynolds in the GT3s going long, Hezzy Thomas in the lone KTM also going for the long pit stop strategy here. Professor Chronotis really pushing those curbs at Villeneuve, just trying to get any advantage he can over the 87 Aston Martin in front. Give you those lovely V8 notes of the Aston Martin in his battle with Professor Chronotis, just getting really close in those braking zones, but the Aston able to get the grip and remain in front. Gaps are pretty open in the GT4s at the time being. Ilpo Ruotsalainen having a comfortable 8.7 second lead over Andres Mostachero. He's got a 6-second gap between him and Alex Freeman, who has third place in the GT4s. Then it's a further 6.5 seconds to Diego Mostachero, then Justin Beachley about 4 seconds behind for fourth place. Hezzy Thomas in the pits, the last GT4 to do so. He gets back, dropped and rolling, exits the pit lane behind Kwan, ahead of Asherle. Jim Reynolds in the pits, leaving Neil Kerbel to be the last driver out on track yet to complete a pit stop. Tony Gold getting a drive-through for track limits. And in his hot pursuit of Moleda, he has pushed the limits a little bit too hard. And on one too many occasions, the game awarding him a drive-through penalty that he will need to serve within 2 more racing laps. So that will promote Professor Chronotis up into the top 5 after Gold goes and serves that drive-through penalty. Jim Reynolds might get promoted to position as well after he gets up and rolling, or down I should say, down on the ground and rolling out of the pit lane. And he's got some good clean air to work with as well. Neil Kerbel, no! Drive-through for Neil! The Lexus was in second place overall before all of the pit stop cycles started. And also, as did Tony Gold, just pushing a little bit too hard and gets that drive-through penalty on his 4th track limit violation. So that might mix up the podiums entirely here in the GT3s. So this will be a pit lane visit for Neil Kerbel, whether it is the drive-through or the pit stop itself, we remain yet to see. And so Tony Gold will have to do the same and take a trip down pit lane, trundling with that pit limiter on, losing precious time to the rivals, and it looks like Neil Kerbel just doing the drive-through on this occasion. So he will get that done and served, and exits back out on the track, still needing to clear that mandatory pit stop. Tony Gold is really hustling Moleda despite the fact that he has to pit on this lap. Perhaps just looking for a bit of an advantage here and pushing his rivals into getting a penalty as well. But Moleda knows his task is to remain on the racing surface, as there is Dean Stefani out in front in that green and black McLaren. So that might be for second and third place. Braking with a wheel on the gravel was Moleda, letting Tony Gold go through, but he will have to dive in the pits on this lap to serve that drive-through, and he does just that. So Michael Moleda there losing a little bit of time to Stefani and Professor Chronotis. We will still have to wait and see exactly how that drive-through for Neil Kerbel will shake up the podium position order. Will he be able to remain ahead of Stefani, Moleda, or Chronotis here in his battle with Sarah Liu at the top of the championship? There is Tony Gold getting the drive through. No, another game crash. What is happening today? We've lost 4 drivers so far. Battle heating up here between Justin Beachley and Diego Mostachero. This is for 4th and 5th in the GT4 field, as they continue on through to start race lap number 22 for the GT4s. And looking to keep the pressure on through the first sector. And just try and close that gap down and potentially battle in the closing 10 minutes here. The server can't handle the greatness. Yeah, I agree. That's how it works. There's really no other explanation for it, Porkchop. I want to wholeheartedly agree with that. Hopefully you're all good, my friend, after getting the Alpine rolled in race number 2 on Monday evening. I'm sure that was quite a shock from the cockpit. So Moleda on the back of Stefani. No, heavily over the curbs goes Stefani and into the side of the Aston Martin. It looks like the McLaren was losing it over the curbs, and he lost it into the Aston Martin, who was right alongside him exiting Variante Alta. And that was just such an unfortunate incident to tune into, as Stefani picking up a lot of damage there, and into the wall further goes the McLaren. So after all of this chaos, Professor Chronotis gets ahead of Moleda. That will surely be a podium finish for Professor Chronotis, but how high up the podium will he go? Neil Kerbel now in the pits with 6 minutes left. Yeah, another disconnect there. I think that was Stefani after picking up the damage to the car, just retiring from the race here. Justin Beachley and Diego Mostachero approaching the number 10 of Kwan. That is not for position with the number 10 Porsche, so the GT4s will have to work their way through the GT4 traffic, and that is not easy to do with them being very evenly matched on pace, but that is perfectly handled into the first Ravazza, releasing 4th and 5th Mostachero and Beachley to continue their battle in the closing 6 minutes of the race. So Sarah Liu goes through. Neil Kerbel exits the pits. He will be battling with Professor Chronotis on the exit of the pits. Chronotis goes through, so he's up to 2nd. Neil Kerbel on those cold tires now, just trying to get through Justin Beachley and Diego Mostachero as that battle gets slightly interrupted by Professor Chronotis and Neil Kerbel working their way through. So now that will be an interesting battle to watch. Who will be 2nd, who will be 3rd between the Lexus and the Ferrari? And Neil Kerbel now with a fresh set of track limit warnings can push all the way to the end here and really not have to worry about getting that drive-through penalty again. And it could be the opposite end of the story for Professor Chronotis, who has been battling all race long, so perhaps now needing to be on the more cautious side as the 704 of Carabete picking up a drive-through at the end here in the closing minutes. It was looking like a strong result early on for Carabete, just a little bit of an unfortunate contact here exiting the corner. 2nd and 3rd in the GT3 field are going through there. Neil Kerbel alongside the Ferrari into Tamburello, gets ahead before the braking zone and through the first part, has the position and will now look to maintain that on corner exit. The Ferrari will not give it up easy though as they approach the Villeneuve chicane. Neil Kerbel with a textbook move, gets side by side and goes on through. These two now approaching Alex Freeman running in 3rd in the GT4s. And Carabete clearing the drive-through penalty. Neil Kerbel working his way pretty easily there through Alex Freeman, but not the same story for Professor Chronotis, who will just have to linger back here. Jim Reynolds back to 6th after Tony Gold moves up into the top 5 after he had to serve a drive-through for track limits. Lots of position changes here in the GT3s. And Justin Beachley do the same in the GT4s. These two will just have a few laps around Imola left to decide who will be 4th and who will be 5th in the GT4 field. And the AMG just can't quite get alongside enough into Tamburello to force a move down the inside. But he looks a lot more grippy through the chicane itself, and on the approach to Villeneuve, it's the same story. He just can't get alongside enough to force that move just yet. So Sarah Liu on her final lap in the lead of the race. That means we will have this lap plus one more remaining for all of the positions, or not all of the positions, I should say, for these positions especially, between Justin Beachley and Diego Mostachero to be settled. Oh, and a little bit of contact as Mostachero had the GT3 Aston Martin on his inside. Just had to slow down, and Justin Beachley wasn't ready for it. A little bit of bumper-to-bumper contact, but all is still nice and dandy. Positions unchanged. As these two will start their final 3-mile lap in round number 5, battling for 4th and 5th in the GT4s. As time now expiring, it is now or never for Justin Beachley to take as many championship points as he can to try and hang close to Ilpo Ruotsalainen. There's been a dominant race from start to finish, once again from Sarah Liu, taking the lead into the braking zone of Tamburello and never looking back. The 310 Dento Storm Chasers finishes in first in round number 5. Devin Anthony across the line in 8th place. Beluga across the line, as is Carabete in the 704. Great result from the rookie here. Despite that drive-through, I think we'll finish in 7th place, which is not a bad result, all things considered there for Fernando. Justin Beachley and Diego Mostachero still fighting for the position here. Who will be in 4th? And Justin Beachley, unfortunately, there just getting interrupted by some GT3 traffic. Ilpo Ruotsalainen, the same story as Sarah Liu, led from the beginning and didn't look back and has a big lead here to take the race win in the GT4s. Andres across the line to take 2nd place. Alex Freeman will be 3rd. Thanks for that follow. Hope you guys have been enjoying the race as it comes to an end here. Justin Beachley can't fight through. 5th will be where the AMG and across the line. I think he already crossed the line. Yes, the line was back there, so back to the pits goes Beachley. Brian DeSantiago in 6th place. Neil Kerbel in 2nd. Professor Chronotis in 3rd in the GT3s. What the flip? Yes, I'm a commentator. And how about that? So Sarah Liu on top in the GT3s, Neil Kerbel 2nd, Professor Chronotis rounds out the podium. Then you've got Maleta 4th, Tony Golden 5th, Jim Reynolds 6th, Mach Speed 7th, Devin Anthony in 8th place. And the GT4 podium, you've got Ilpo Ruotsalainen, followed by Andres Mostachero, and then Alex Freeman. Back to the studio here. How's it going, Tony? Hope you're doing well, my friend. good to see you joining the race in here. And hope you guys enjoyed that version of the Multiclass Open Championship round number 5 being hosted at Imola. We'd love to invite our podium sitters into the green room for a quick chat of how everybody's race went down. And look at that. They all already know the drill. The GT3s are all in here. Welcome, Sarah. Welcome, Chrono. And welcome, Neil Kerbal. And how about that? Round number 5 completed. Sarah Liu, what can I say? Another dominant performance.
Well, the result is kind of dominant, but actually it wasn't that dominant because like in the quali I didn't have such pace, and I think on my first stint of the race I'm a little bit off my pace. Like I'm a bit struggling with the tires, and but yeah, I don't know what happened to Modelo, the Aston behind. I think he braked too late. And he went to the sand, and yeah, kind of lucky with that. And Neil gave me very much pressure, and I think he did a very late pit stop, like make me thought of like, has he done his pit stop? Like, why is he so ahead of me? Like I was so scared. So yeah.
Yeah, unfortunately there for Neil also. You got the drive-through there. What happened there, Neil? Just pushing a little too hard or getting involved in a bit of traffic side by side, kind of forcing you out wide there?
No, it's user error. Same with like Soldier. It's just user error. Like I feel like the track stewards are like really cruel to me these past 2 races.
You know, that's just how it goes some days. But you were still able to get a podium finish, and kind of after that your pit stop, you were battling with Chrono there with some GT4s after you were exiting the pits.
Oh yeah, that was close. Chrono was like, "Who's coming out of pits?" I'm like, "That's me.
That's me.
Don't worry." and yeah, I had a good front row view of I think the Aston Martin Modelo you're asking about, Sarah. Like they took too much curb on the right hander after the turn 1, and they spun, and I had to like slam the brakes and avoid them.
I see. I was too scared to look at my mirrors because like that left and right hand turn like on the first sector, it was I have to focus on the road, but like suddenly I found where's Aston?
Yep, it spun right in front of me.
Yeah, and just couldn't quite fight back there, but he had good pace and almost ended up on the podium there. Yeah, and then just another incident at the end just lost him a little bit more pace as well. But it was just nothing, just unlucky. That was kind of really all you can say about that. But still showing great pace in that Aston with a pretty quick qualifying lap. I'm sure, Sarah, you were kind of on your toes there after being on the top step for most of the season.
True, I was like a bit scared. Like I think his pace is very fast, the Aston, and but I didn't really like I don't know why. Like I think he had a bad start, like into turn 1. I tried to I don't know what to say. Like I think I had a very good start, so I passed him like very easily.
Aston Martin is incredibly slow off the line.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, he has a very huge turbo lag, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, the Aston's certainly suffering from that. And Chrono, you were battling for a top 5 position for most of the race, and then it kind of all unfolded and went your way, and you ended up on a podium here and battling with Neil for second, kind of towards the end also.
Yeah, everybody else, I think, didn't take tires, so I was really catching up near the end. Really got to thank Cizeron for murdering Anthony early in the race, and Melita for murdering Stefani late in the race, and Gold for giving himself a drive-through. I couldn't have done it without all of their help.
Big shout outs to the rest of the grid there. But yeah, just kind of all went your way. The seas parted and onto the podium you go.
Hooray.
Hooray.
It was fun battling with you for like a corner, Chrono.
That wasn't a battle. Your car was faster than me in a straight.
Therefore, I win.
Yeah.
And that's just how it goes sometimes.
Even
That's why
driving
I'm
behind
Alexis.
Stefane was just like, you get a run on him in the slipstream. Can't make an overtake attempt. And all needed to come through strategy and survival.
Yeah, survival is just the name of the game sometimes in these multi-class races with not a lot of runoff here at Imola. Lots of grass, lots of gravel protecting the track limits. But you guys showed how it was done. Finished first, second, and third. Sarah with the race win. Neil Kerbel in second, making it Alexis 1-2. And then Chrono in the Ferrari in third. Thank you guys for joining us. Appreciate you taking the time.
Yeah,
Sure,
thank you
sure,
for
We'll be
coming.
back here to the green room here.
It looks like Donington next week might be wet.
Oh, heck yeah.
Partially.
Partially wet next week for Donington.
Maybe.
Super
No
looking
promise.
forward to that. No promises from Chrono or Neil. Thank you guys for joining us. Thank you guys for watching along as well. Hope you guys enjoyed that multi-class action. Doesn't look like we've got any GT4 podium sitters on the green room wanting a chat this evening, but that's okay. Maybe next week at the more or less wet Donington. We'll have to wait and see what happens. If you want to see some more track action tomorrow, iRacing has some multi-class action for you here on Twitch here at Trackalicious. And then moving on to next week, Monday, the rookies, and then no race Wednesday because of the Thanksgiving holiday. So we will be back in 2 weeks' time for that Donington race in the multi-class championship. And then the LMU championships are in the works for Tuesdays and Fridays. So stick around and join the Discord for all of the latest news and information about that. If you want to get signed up, SimGrid is the place to go. And after all that is said and done, round 5 is complete. Oh, one more thing. If you want some hats, some Trackalicious shirts, some socks, some underwear, and all of that good stuff, holiday season right around the corner. Get something for your motorsports fan. Check out Trackalicious, the website that is, for the hats, the shirts, and all of that good stuff. Get a raid going here. Spread the love from one sim racing community to another. Looks like a lot of iRacing happening tonight. We are going to do the raid of Joe Armstrong doing some iRacing. Make sure to tell him Trackalicious sent you. Spread the love from one community to another. Thank you for joining us this evening. Hope to see you next time. Have a good rest of your morning, afternoon, or evening. Wherever you may be joining us from, have a good rest of your night. And we will see you all next time, and stay safe.